Welcome to today's Explainer. I am so excited to guide you through this deep dive. You know, when we think of summer break, we immediately picture those carefree, relaxing vibes, right? Hot days, cool nights, road trips, just lounging by the beach. But what happens when that perfectly normal sunny summer day suddenly flips into an absolute nightmare? Well, today we're going to break down 3 completely true, absolutely chilling summertime encounters that really prove just how fast the ordinary can turn terrifying. Let's get right into it. Nah, guy's a freak. Run away. Imagine sending a quick direct message to a total stranger online, right? You're just trying to get a read on a new friend you're traveling with. And then within 10 minutes, you get this exact message back. This quote is a cold, hard reminder of how fast a regular summer interaction can go completely off the rails. And honestly, it sets the perfect tone for our first case file. All right, story 1, the vacation stalker. A new friend with a dark secret in Arizona. So this takes us back to mid-July. We've got a college student named Kyle who's home for break, out with a big group of friends at a local bar. And while he's there, he just strikes up a random conversation with a guy named Matt. You know, just 2 guys vibing over a Cubs game playing on the TV. They exchange Instagram handles, as you do, and Kyle figures, okay, I'll probably never see this guy again. But Matt had a very different plan. On Friday, they meet at the bar. Totally normal, but the very next night, Saturday, Kyle's hanging out at an outdoor waterfront spot for his friend Tyler's birthday. He posts a quick update on his Instagram story. An hour later, he gets a tap on his shoulder. It's Matt. Matt claims it's just his favorite Saturday night spot, but looking back, it was textbook stalker behavior. He saw the story and actively hunted Kyle down. By Sunday of the following weekend, Matt is inviting Kyle out golfing. And then fast forward just a little bit to August 15th, and Matt has literally flown Kyle out on an all-expenses-paid trip to Arizona to hike the Grand Canyon. I mean, talk about a stunning rapid escalation. And this perfectly illustrates the trap Kyle fell into. Because on Instagram, Matt's persona painted him as a super normal, active 20-something who just loved to travel. He had a solid following, great pictures, but the reality? Matt was deeply solitary and predatory. Kyle's friends actually pointed out later that every single time they saw Matt, he was completely alone. He didn't bring any of his own buddies on the Arizona trip. He was a complete lone wolf, just hiding behind a carefully curated social media feed. Okay, so the tension absolutely peaks in Arizona. Kyle realizes the Airbnb only has 1 bed, so he takes the pull-out couch. They drink pretty heavily during the trip, but one morning, Kyle wakes up and his phone, which he specifically plugged in right next to him, is unplugged and just sitting on a nearby table. At first, he brushes it off, probably just drunken clumsiness, right? But the next night, Kyle actually takes the main bedroom. He wakes up in the pitch dark. His phone cord is dangling. The phone is gone. He jumps out of bed, looks around, and finds Matt sprawled face down on the floor on the far side of the bed. Matt plays dumb, pretends he sleepwalked, and then miraculously finds Kyle's phone under the bed. So, the absolute most crucial question we have to ask here, what in the world was Matt repeatedly trying to access on Kyle's phone? Well, the final straw happens later that exact same night. Kyle wakes up one more time, and standing at the foot of his bed in the dark is Matt's silhouette. Then, Matt actually sits down on the bed and starts rubbing Kyle's butt. No way, right? Kyle obviously screams, physically pushes Matt out the bedroom door, and frantically packs his bags. While he's doing this, Matt just sits perfectly upright on the living room couch, staring at him like a creepy, unmoving NPC character. Kyle flees to the airport at the crack of dawn. He ended up paying $35 to the airline just to change his seat so he wouldn't even have to make eye contact with Matt on the flight home. And it was right after this that Kyle messaged a guy tagged in one of Matt's old Instagram photos, which led to that chilling warning we saw at the start. Nah, guy's a freak. Run away. Okay, let's shift gears to a completely different flavor of fear. Story 2, the midnight beach figure. Unnatural encounters on the sands of Ocean City. So we are moving from the dry desert of Arizona to the heavy, sticky, upper 80s heat of Ocean City, Maryland. It's a Friday night. A guy named Kyle, a totally different Kyle this time, and his 2 high school friends, Jason and Marcus, are crashing at a beach house. After drinking and just hanging out, they decide to take a midnight walk down to the completely deserted beach. They're just laying out in the sand near this dismantled wooden lifeguard tower, staring up at the stars. It's peaceful. The only light is from the moon and a few distant boardwalk lamps. Suddenly, Jason sits straight up. Is that someone walking over there? And sure enough, about 50 to 60 yards away, right where the dark water meets the sand, there is a blur. Just this dark silhouette. Now, at first, they figure it's just some drunk tourist wandering around. But there were way too many weird anomalies. This figure had a stiff, slow, almost mechanical kind of walk, like something wasn't quite working right. His arms were hanging completely limp at his sides. He was shirtless, pale grayish white, and wearing soaking wet jeans. But the most disturbing detail, his head was tilted down at this completely unnatural angle, and his eyes were just wide and bulging out. The boys are just watching in absolute silence as the figure stops walking entirely. He just stands there, completely, totally still. After what feels like an absolute eternity, Marcus whispers, "Who just stands like that for 5 minutes?" And then Jason drops a bombshell on them. He realizes the figure isn't just looking down at the sand. His head is tilted directly at Kyle. This thing is staring right at them in the pitch dark. Jason quickly clicks on a flashlight. The battery's dying, so the beam is flickering all over the place. But for one terrifying second, the light actually hits this pale, grayish white figure. And the split second that beam hits, it sprints. Without any hesitation, without any physical buildup or bending of the knees to get momentum, the figure just launches forward into a full-speed sprint straight at the boys. It was completely unnatural. The friends obviously start screaming, bolt across the sand, and don't stop running until they hit the street. When they finally catch their breath and look back, the beach is totally empty. And honestly, the craziest part, the figure left absolutely no footprints in the sand. The aftermath of this is just as creepy. Both Kyle and Jason actually started having the exact same recurring nightmare of this wet, pale figure just standing in the corner of their bedrooms. Then, almost a full year later, Kyle happens to be scrolling through a local Ocean City Facebook group. He sees a grainy night photo with the caption, "Does anyone know who this creepy guy is?" It was the exact same figure, same posture, same pale skin. And the comments were just flooded with dozens of people who had also seen him around. One person literally watched him walk straight into the ocean and never come back out. Another found wet, isolated footprints on their porch, 2 streets away from the beach, with 0 tracks leading up to or away from them. Moving right along to story 3, the nighttime boat ambush, hunted on the waters of New England. So it's summer in this classic, picturesque, coastal New England town. A 19-year-old dock boy and his friend Emerson decide to take his family's boat out to a quiet bay around 7 p.m. Just have a few beers and wait for the rest of their friends to show up. They drop anchor between 2 other boats. It's shaping up to be a perfectly normal, chill evening on the water. But suddenly, that lighthearted vibe completely shatters. The boat to their right just leaves. The boat on their left abruptly shuts its music off entirely. Our host and Emerson groan, wanting the party to keep going. But Emerson taps his friend and tells him to look over. Standing on the edge of that neighboring boat are 3 silent silhouettes, just staring at them across the dark water. No movement, no talking, just staring. Now the host, who freely admits he was a bit drunk and maybe optimistic to a fault, thinks it's just a weird joke. He actually grabs a megaphone from his boat and yells over, "20 to watch, fellas, just trying to break the tension and be funny." He gets answered with a sinister, slow, raspy laugh echoing out of the dark. And literally, immediately following that laugh, 2 loud splashes into the water. Only 1 silhouette is left standing on the boat, meaning 2 of them are now in the pitch black water, swimming straight toward them. Talk about a frantic escape. Emerson goes into full panic mode and starts frantically yanking up the anchor. The host is literally still laughing off the adrenaline until they can actually hear the swimming getting dangerously close to the hull. The host turns the ignition key, and right at that exact split second, a wet hand reaches out of the dark water and grabs the railing of their boat. Pure panic. The host slams the engine forward, but they smash straight into a sandbar. He throws the boat into reverse, backing out of the bay at full desperate throttle just to get away from whatever was in the water. But guys, they aren't safe yet. As they pause for a second to catch their breath, they see the lights of that hostile boat rushing right at them. It turns into a literal high-speed chase. For 5 heart-pounding minutes, the host has the throttle totally pinned, but his old boat just isn't fast enough. The pursuing boat gets so incredibly close they can literally see its bow rising and falling with the waves right behind their stern. In an absolute last-ditch effort, the host bangs a hard left, cutting as close to the rocky shore as he possibly can without beaching the boat. And miraculously, it works. The ambushers finally peel off into the dark. All right, the takeaway: trusting your gut when summer turns sinister. Because these 3 case files really serve as profound cautionary tales, showing us how easily ordinary, relaxing summer scenarios can perfectly camouflage extreme danger. And that brings us to the core lesson of this entire explainer. Situational awareness is your absolute best defense. Honestly, whether you're dealing with a predatory stranger trying to isolate you in a desert Airbnb, some unnatural glitch-like anomaly sprinting at you on a midnight beach, or a completely unprovoked nautical ambush, recognizing red flags early is what keeps you alive. Think about it. If Kyle hadn't woken up to his moved phone, if Jason hadn't noticed that weirdly tilted head, or if Emerson hadn't been immediately skeptical of those silent silhouettes, these stories would have had a very, very different ending. They survived because they trusted their gut. So as we wrap up today's explainer, I want to leave you with one final question to really chew on. When the sun goes down tonight, how safe are you really? We all love to think our summer nights are just about stargazing and having a few cold drinks with friends, but the dark can hide a whole lot of things. Stay focused, stay aware, and above all, trust your instincts. Thank you so much for joining me today, and hey, keep your eyes open out there.